right. Well, here we are again. Silver Savages, BK and Steve. Um, BK is our guest today. So for all who are listening, and if you don't know, I don't know when this will drop, but as of today, we got less than a week before BK gets married again. I have the honor and the privilege of marrying them by the powers vested in me because they didn't know any better.
I like the fact that you say again, because for those that don't know, this is not my first rodeo.
But it's something to talk about because as older men, it's not uncommon to find yourself either coming out of a relationship, and engaging in new ones. And it's a big difference from your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s when you're re-engaging in that dating scene. I don't know. Still with my wife. But even that changes, marriage changes with age, you change with age from physical, internal, you name it. So, although it seems like an awkward topic, it's really not because I've seen your transitions. I know how happy you and Tyler are now. And, how, like, I don't even know how to ask it, but like, how did that happen? We're silver savages, right? And, one thing I realized when you get older, you're not just looking to be with someone, you're looking for companionship, and you want someone who's not just going to appreciate you and what you do, the savage in you, but knows how to stand by your side as a savage. Is a savage themselves, essentially. And women are savages. We know that. Love the women out there, all the women in my life,
You have to say that because I know some of the women in your life, and they can be hard.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I on Father's Day, I actually send my sisters Father's Day cards.
That's hilarious.
So because
It's
they
so
were
appropriate.
they were the primary male influences in my life.
That's funny.
But that being said, I'm not in that situation you are, and I know many of our listeners either might be or are as well. And when you find yourself older, wiser, it's scary sometimes. It's not easy. So, I'll turn it to you because I won't say you're the expert, but you have empirical knowledge on this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad, but you know what? It's funny when you and I started discussing the whole Silver Savage idea, and we knew most of our listeners are going to be warriors from our kind of our life, our world,
Right.
but we knew that aside from just talking about that stuff, we got to talk about everyday stuff that also matters, and relationships being an important one of them. It's interesting. So, I was obviously reflecting a lot about it over the past few days, weeks, even months, and as things get closer to wedding date.
For the record, I think I'm more stressed out about your wedding than you are. But
Just
go
because you
ahead.
can pronounce my name, but that's about it.
I can't. To this day, I can't. I can't
No,
get the T and the Z together.
that's okay. You have 1 week to figure it out. Zzz. On that note, but yeah, I
I'm
mean,
just gonna say BK. F it.
I'm okay with it. Um, we talked about it in the past. You and I had a lot of conversations over the year about relationships, and it is a major element of men our age. Like you said, a lot of us go through divorces. Some of people our age are widows, unfortunately. Some people never dated before. You talk about, dating being different at our age. I'm talking about just relationship as a whole being different. Even if you were the same person, as you mentioned, we change, they change, life changes, our priorities change. So the way we approach that has to be different, right? So for those that don't know, yeah, I'm going into my fourth marriage. I used to say I'm not very good at this marriage game, but actually kind of reevaluating that. I don't think that I'm not good at it. I always say that as a joke, right? Just to get people to kind of giggle when I say I'm going into my fourth marriage. But I think I learned for every one of them. I don't think either one of them was a waste, if that's a word. I think from each one of them I grew. There's a lot of positive that came with each one of my marriages, relationships in general. And I think now I find myself in a relationship where I can hopefully take all those lessons and apply them, I think I'm in a place in life where I can be a better spouse. I can provide better. I know my priorities better. And like you said, I found someone that complements that. I feel in the past, and you've seen that, I feel in the past, I felt the need to appease the other person. Like I tried to mold myself into the
Right.
expectation of what I'm supposed to be. And this is the first time that I feel that I can be myself. And it's not that it doesn't come with no friction. There's certainly friction with me being myself, but there's an understanding now from both of us that this is who I am. I'm in my mid 40s, and that's not going to change. And I'm not going to necessarily try to appease another person. And if you want to be with me, I'm going to accept you for who you are and what you are, but you have to accept me for who I am and what I am as well. And I think that is new for me. And I know maybe that was a lesson that was missed on me in the past, but certainly one that I learned over the past years.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talked about you learn from a relationship, and I think, like you said, we should tend to appease. There's this misconception that two people come together and you have to give up a little bit of yourself to combine and make something new. And oh, I don't think you should. You are who you are, and that's who you're marrying into, and that's who you're supposed to be. And granted, I do believe people change. Again, you've known me for a very long time. I've known you for a very long time. I'm not the same Steve you knew when we first met,
Right.
at all. Physically, um, emotionally, spiritually, and I could say the same for you. It's like I've watched you grow up. Because I'm mature a lot later anyway. Um,
And you know what? That's actually a good point. I mean, my first marriage, I was 23 years old, and I don't think at 23 I knew what comes with marriage, what that relationship really entails, what the expectations were. And that marriage didn't last long, and I think that it was certainly one of those. We've been together for a few years. This is the next logical step. This is what we see people on TV do once a date for a few years. So we should do that. And then one day we kind of, now, you know what? This is we rush into something we shouldn't have. It's very mutual. It was very cordial. We stayed on great terms for years after. It was more recently that we kind of drifted away just because life got in the way. But we we just rushed into something in our early days and without any understanding of what marriage or a true committed long-term relationship actually entails, right? So it's about growing emotionally, spiritually, and so forth. At 23, I had no idea what any of that means.
right.
So
Yeah. I don't think anybody does, and even more so now where, and not to knock dating apps, because I know people that have gotten married and are in great relationships because they swiped right instead of left. There's no way I could do that. I'm old school. I like meeting people, talking to people. So it's definitely changed. Especially for people in our age group, and I'm sure there's apps for that too. Like over 40, over 50, whatever.
I don't know how the algorithms work on the social media, but I keep getting kind of ads for Christian mingle type stuff. And somebody effed up somewhere along the way. It's
you
hilarious.
know,
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what?
I keep getting male gay dating sites. So
I don't think that messed up on you at all.
yeah, I mean,
I think that's
maybe they're
fun.
telling me something I don't know, something I haven't discovered yet. But no, it is something to say. You said it right. When it comes to marriage, because I don't think many people are prepared for marriage. I know I wasn't prepared for marriage, and my marriage is nowhere near perfect. But you work at it every day, and you try to. I always say there's this misconception that people think love is an emotion, but it's a verb. It's an action. You have to work at it, because again, like we said, people change, and when you're with the same person over and over again, yeah, you see the beauty in them, but eventually you're going to start seeing the flaws in them. Um, and
And you
not
need
that
to
that's
accept those flaws as part of their beauty if you really want to make it work.
correct, and that's the thing, though. But that's where the work comes in, because we, like any human nature, we see flaws as flaws. Like, oh, something's wrong. I need to fix it, or they need to fix it. But like you said, that when you mature, you get to a certain point, those flaws are, you can turn them into something else. Um, and that falls on the individual, I think. You know what I mean? It's easy to run away. You know, I don't want to say run away, because there are situations where, like we talked about earlier, you may not be ready for it. You know, I know my sister, not to throw her under the bus, you know, she's in her second marriage. But the first one, it was that situation where they rushed into it. And they just, I can say they weren't meant to be together at all. So they made the decision to split, and it was a great decision for both of them. And they ended up having second fruitful, beautiful marriages and whatnot. And again, I don't, I hate to turn it into a science, because I don't really think there is. You know, you can psychoanalyze marriage, relationships to your blue in the face, but the fact of the matter is, we're all different. We're all built different. You know, I do believe there's some type of primal chemical compatibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I always said, because, you know, men are very visual, very physical. It's easy to look at a woman and say she's beautiful, but at the same time, I can look at a beautiful woman and not want her at all. You know what I mean? No, I know you know what I mean. And then there's another person who just, you know, you click, and that's where you just can't explain that. It's just how we're built.
Well, there's certainly a lot of chemistry involved. There's a lot of research to prove that sort of pheromones, for example,
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's why animals piss on each other. I mean, not that we do that as humans, but
you don't do that.
no. So that's never good when you say so. I did.
I can stop you there. Let me just get
Well,
back
no,
up.
it's a funny story. It was in it was in the military. I can't remember what deployment, but we were in those portable showers, and like they only cover you from the neck to your knees. And I'm having a conversation with, I won't say his name because he's still my friend to this day, and I don't want to offend his church congregation. I guess I'm giving away a lot of information there, but we're talking to each other face to face like we are. We're like 2 feet away from each other, and I'm giggling the whole time. And he's like, "What are you laughing at?" And I'm like, "I just peed all over your feet, and you didn't even know it," because you know it
Right.
stopped at the knees, and the shower was flowing. And I don't know. I thought it was freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
But I
but
just
think about peeing while people are talking to you and them not realizing. Because I see a pattern here, and I'm not going to divulge too much about that.
no, that's fine. We can say that. You know, look, what he's talking about, for anyone who's listening, a couple podcasts ago, we had
Hey, don't mention who it is.
no, but we just had a great conversation going. I did not want to get up. I had to use the bathroom, and I filled a beer bottle during the recording, and no one was the wiser.
Nope, I did not know until you told us after the fact. But let's get this conversation back on track. You hit on a few points. First of all, I do believe that there are some toxic relationships. There's some relationships that
Oh, absolutely.
right? You know, anything that's abusive, emotionally, physically, or otherwise, you should certainly not force it and stay in it, right? On the flip side, another point that you touched on, in our society, it almost became too easy to call it quits, right? The whole idea,
Right. Yes,
divorce,
you're absolutely right. With a click of a button,
right?
you can end something.
Correct. So the challenge is to find that happy medium, and like you said, you know, you talk about love being a verb and keep working at it. I remember very vividly a conversation I had very early in my relationship with Tyler, and borrowing on my experience. You know, I'm significantly older than Tyler. For those that don't know, there's a pretty large age difference, a gap between us, and you know, I was saying, I'm like, listen, a relationship, something we're in the early phases right now, and we're very much into each other, and we feel like this is going to be like this forever. But the reality is that I recognize that it won't necessarily be like this, and we just have to remember this feeling and keep working towards maintaining it.
Right.
But it's a hard work on both of our ends, and it has to be something conscious and something that's deliberate, that is done all the time, especially when things are not great, right? Then you got to put the effort.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um,
And it's funny, not to be an a-hole, but you talk about the significant age difference. And I'm like, you know what, Tyler, it's a win-win situation for her, because she's gonna get to enjoy you. You're gonna be old and crusty. You know, we're gonna hit the eternal battlefield, and she'll still be young and vibrant, and she can start all over again.
Whenever I tell her that she's gonna be so wealthy when I die, she gets pissed. I don't get it.
I get it too. I'm like, I'm worth more dead than alive.
Yeah,
You know?
you know, enjoy me while you still can, and then when I'm gone, just go and
Well,
enjoy life.
I'm gonna have your body frozen and encased behind glass.
Oh, nobody wants to see that,
No,
but
no, and we'll put a sign, break in case of war.
that'll go for all of it.
By then, we'll have the technology to bring you back. I mean, yeah, you'll be a zombie, but zombie BK, I mean, that's pretty badass.
So, talking about you officiating the wedding, we,
Hmm.
and again, saying about the whole fact about I can be myself, right? When Tyler and I decided, okay, we're gonna get married, we didn't want a traditional wedding,
Oh, it's not going to be traditional.
no, and she could very easily have gone. It's her first wedding. She has a lot of friends, a lot of family. We could have easily gone the route of, okay, we're doing a formal wedding with 200 guests and whatever. And I'm like, that's not you nor me. Neither one of us wants to be in a stuffy room with people we don't
Right.
know or whatnot. Uh, so we're doing the ceremony that you're officiating. It's going to be by a family, by a relative, on the water. Very small, family only, and all it is for people to just be relaxed and enjoy. And the next day we're doing a party at a bar,
At
which
a
is one,
burger joint.
yeah, at a burger joint that her and I frequented throughout the early stages of our relationship a lot, and they were kind enough to allow us to use their facility. They're
Which is
actually close,
pretty cool.
and considering it's Memorial Day weekend, which you assume people have off, and it's a busy weekend, or potentially could be a busy weekend for them, the fact that they're just letting us take over it for the day, it's pretty awesome on their end. So shout out to Abby's Burger Bistro in Mount Washington. Uh,
Delicious.
yeah, best burgers ever. The bar is great. Um, they actually the bartender there, who unfortunately went back to Ireland to care for a family, and
I was
he's
about
back
to
there.
say the Irish
Yeah,
dude.
love him, James. So he was the first one to know that Tyler was pregnant.
Yeah.
Because we used to go there during COVID, where everything
Well,
else was.
listen, I think I might have known. I just didn't say anything.
You might have, and to this day, we're actually not sure if it's my baby or yours too. I mean, but that's a whole different story. But we used to go there a lot, and he used to offer us shots all the time. And this one time we go there, and Tyler said no, and he goes, "Oh," and he was the first one to realize, or we had to actually tell him because we weren't telling anybody at the moment. So he was the first one. So, anyways, we're excited to have our actual party there, and I was going over the list of guests. So there's obviously the family, mostly Tyler's because their family is here. My family is mostly not
Oh,
here.
but you have family coming in from Israel as well.
I have my sister. That's it.
Okay.
Yep. But I have you, and I have
Yeah, but I'm like a hand grenade on your web gear.
yeah. But you know what? I'm- you're more my brother than you know.
I say the same thing all the time.
So I have you. I have people like Daryl. I have you know so many of my closest friends that are gonna be there.
Now Daryl's coming up, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
And what I'm thinking is, I was going over the list, and I'm like, there are so many savages coming. I mean, our DJ, he's a
Yes.
savage. He was on our podcast, Black Belt in BJJ. He's the one DJing. We have Black Belts in Krav Maga. We have special operations guys. We have law enforcement officers. I mean, if somebody wants to crash that party, it's going to be hilarious.
It's gonna be a good time. They'll probably say like, "How did BK convince someone to come in here to get their ass kicked?"
And because it's what we do. But that's the thing. It was Tyler and I. There was no doubt. I mean, the only thing that would have made it even a little better if we could have pulled that off is just do everything at the shooting range. But no, we're excited. We're looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward, obviously, to the wedding itself. I'm more looking forward to the next few decades of putting into play all these lessons that we said we learned, and making these a lasting relationship.
Right. And one thing is cool. And I see this because Tyler isn't just your fiance, and she's gonna be your wife and the mother of Gaul, but she's also one of our instructors
Yep.
too. Which is pretty. I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I mean, she's had her hands in just about everything from security work to firearms administration, and now going to be our women's only instructor for firearms, which I think is much needed, and I think it's pretty awesome. So I had to throw that out there because Tyler is more than just your fiance. You
Yeah,
know,
no, she's not. I gotta say this. It's funny because when I first met her, I was teaching at a hospital she was working at, and she said she wanted to get involved and she wanted to get into law enforcement.
I
And
remember that.
yep, and I gave her your number because I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
This is not.
The first thing I told her is like, you don't want to be a cop.
But then, you know, old and behold, and you know,
You can't stop the universe from doing what it's gonna do.
no, it's funny how much of that actually, karma, right? It just it makes its way.
Hey,
So,
Sarah, Sarah, if whatever maybe it will be, it's gonna happen. You can't stop it.
right. So let me ask you if you could give men out there one relationship advice, and understanding that nobody's relationship is perfect. We all have our flaws, right? We're all learning as we're going. But what's a lesson that you learned that you would share with other men our age?
Love yourself first.
That's a big one. I think a lot of people miss on that one. That's so true. And that took me forever to learn, actually.
It's taken me till now. I'd say within the last year, 2 years, that I'm happy and comfortable for the most part. I could lose a couple pounds, but that's whatever. That's physical, self-centered stuff. But it was within the last few years that I realized, all the things that I've done, all the things I still want to do, and who I am as a person. I'm happy with that. I'm happy, with the people I've helped, the things I've achieved. And I don't want that to change. And I'm not going to change that for anyone. It's kind of like where you're at now. It's like, this is Steve. This is who I am. I love who I am. Accept me for who I am, or you just don't love me at all. So I think that's a really big one. If you stay true to yourself and love yourself through the whole process, when you engage in a relationship, you'll be able to infuse that, I think, better with your significant other rather than not knowing, which again, getting married earlier on in age two, not knowing how to love myself, not even knowing myself. I didn't have that identity. I think it brought conflict, even to this day where, even after 15 years of marriage, it's like, you're starting over again. You're getting to know each other again, stuff like that.
You've been there for
So
15 years.
yeah,
That's longer than my 3 previous marriages combined.
yeah.
That's impressive.
Well, 16, going on 16, 16. Yeah,
That's
going on
awesome.
16. So I would say stay true to yourself. If you're committed to a certain thought process, a certain way of life, stick to it. There are going to be people that are either exactly like or very close and similar to that. Wait for it. I think there's just this fear that the longer I wait, I'm going to end up alone. I'm going to die alone. And I don't think that's necessarily true. It's just a matter of patience and knowing where to look and how to look. One of my best friends from New York is kind of in that situation now where he's my age. He's 42. He's single. He's dating up and down. And he says it. I'm lonely. I want companionship. But at the same time, he lives a certain lifestyle. And I'm like, just got to keep chugging along and stay true to yourself, because if you try to conform just to meet a need of someone else, it's just going to cause conflict. You're trying to fit a square into a round circle.
Right. You said something earlier, and I can't remember your exact wording because I'm 2 whiskeys in, but we're talking about not compromising who you are type thing. But I will argue that there is value in compromising in general, right? And without giving up the essence of who you are. But I don't want to say pick and choose your fights. I think that's a wrong terminology. I don't think you should choose that you should choose and pick your fight. I think if it's important enough for you, you should certainly voice your opinion. Doesn't
Right.
necessarily have to be a fight, but you certainly have to voice your opinion and be honest. But compromising, there's just some things that matter more than others. And I feel like if it doesn't matter that much to you, then that compromising doesn't hurt, right? Um,
100%.
and I feel a lot of us let ego get in the way. So if I had to give one advice to somebody, it's check your ego to decide, does it really matter in the big scheme of things? If you were to look at back, a year from now, even a month from now, would it really matter? Did it make a difference for you to stand up for the one silly thing, or did it not? So that would be my advice.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's I'll use this as an extreme example, but 100% correct. So when I was 17, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, but many people don't know this. My sisters know this, and a few close friends. And I think I told you, I was literally a flight away from going into the French Foreign Legion. And I called the State Department, called the recruiters. I was, in it. Long story short, I ended up joining the Marine Corps instead, which
It's
probably,
almost the same.
yeah, just you speaking English. Um, but I always joke sometimes with my wife where I'm like, if I wasn't married, I'd probably be a former legionnaire living in France or a mercenary somewhere, and then it's such an extreme that it's like, then why are you even married with kids? I'm like, no, I want to be married with kids. What I'm saying is that if I weren't with you, I do that, but because this is something I wanted to, this opportunity arise, I chose to do this. I checked my ego and my, that boyhood desire to go pew, 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 because in the grand scheme of things, and, I'm choosing life over death. But, like you said, I just put it in check. I'm like, I can live without being a legionnaire,
Right.
and now I'm going to go be a dad, it's
Yep.
just as dangerous and just as demanding. And
Oh, sometimes more. But that's exactly it. If you put it to that same test, right? If you look a year down the road, would you regret not joining the Legionnaires, or would you regret not being married with kids?
right. And I don't, I've been honored and blessed to serve, my country as a Marine, as a soldier. And I wouldn't trade my kids for the world. I especially, I didn't grow up with a father. We kind of discussed fatherhood briefly in previous podcasts, but, and that might be a topic we should broach as Silver Savages, because, as older men, most of us are fathers, some are not. That's okay. But it's something significant about that. I didn't grow up with a father. I didn't have an example of a good marriage. I didn't have an example of fatherhood. So I was freaking terrified when I got married, and I screwed it all up. I'll be the first to admit I screwed marriage up, to the T. And I'm sure although I'm like the cool dad, I'm sure I'm not getting that perfect. No one's going to. Um, but there's something to be said about fatherhood, when it comes to being a savage, because there's nothing more savage than, and I'll say mother too, but than a father protecting his children. Like I wouldn't hesitate to give my life for my kids. And that's not to say that men without children are not savages either. Um, but it changes your whole perspective.
Yep.
You have children, I have children. And I think I fear me as a warrior, as a fighter. There is a significant difference between warrior and fighter, one driven by purpose, one driven by reason. But you can combine the two in a balance. Intruder alert.
Dogs don't
Yeah,
like
is it
stories.
happening? Is it happening? No,
Yep.
someone's breaking
Dogs
in.
don't like stories.
But I'm
I don't
more
like it.
terrified of myself now as a father than I am than when I didn't have kids, of what I'm capable of doing. Because before I had I guess you could say, a stopping point, now I don't.
Right.
I don't. When it comes to my friends and family, and my sisters know this, because when I gave their wedding speeches, I said it all the time, and I've said it to you before in gifts I've given you. I'd freaking start a war for the people I love. I could care less of what the collateral damage is, but my family's my family. So, and even more so now when I'm older, more mature. Although that sounds immature, but I'm more mature. I know what I am. I know that I love myself. I know that I love my family, and I know what I'm capable of. That's where that silver turns to savage.
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So,
Let me ask you another question, because this came up actually earlier in the week talking to some other people. What are your feelings about white lies? Like
white
when you talk, yeah,
lice.
lies, like saying something
Whoa,
that's
white
not.
lies. I thought you said lice, like, pulgas,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I speak Spanish too, but
like,
no, white lies.
do you know, that that's where the term nitpicking comes from?
Yes, I did know that.
Because lice's eggs are called nits.
Yep,
Back in the
nitpicking.
day, to get them out, you had to pick them out. Nitpicking. That was the
You so
trivia for today.
you so educated for.
I think a lie is a lie. Whether it's white, black, green, yellow, red, purple, black. Um,
What if that truth is gonna hurt the other person more than benefit?
I think
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I do agree. I
no,
just
because if
feel
it comes out even later on, then you've compounded it. Then it becomes betrayal as well. The longer you wait, and I'm speaking empirically, not to get too detailed on my own, but this is something whether you want to call it personal or empirically, you can, believe that white lies are okay. I don't think any lies are okay when you're in a fully committed relationship and you want to be healthy. You got to have full transparency. Um, and again, I'm learning that myself, being guilty as the one who has lied. Um, it just causes more damage. So if you really want to thrive with someone and you want to be with them eternally, then let them in completely. Open the floodgates. Doesn't matter how ugly they are, but open them at the beginning so they have a chance to dry off. And you can move forward.
interesting. I don't disagree with you. I certainly feel
And
like
again, I don't know. Like I said, I'm speaking empirically and personally. I'm no marriage counselor. I'm far from it. So
you'll be amazed how many marriage counselors I met who are divorced. And I'm like, you're not a very good advertisement for your own services. But what is that? Howlerhead. I'm having Buffalo Trace again.
I,
Seems to
I
be the new go-to.
I've never tried this. It's a banana whiskey.
Oh, well, sounds appropriate for a Puerto Rican.
I gotta get my potassium in.
Oh, was that being racist of me? I don't know. Anyways, no, I agree, but how you feel about, let's say something happens, you didn't do anything wrong, nobody else did anything wrong, but you know that divulging that information may hurt your significant other, so you just don't say anything.
I again, for some
And I'm
people,
playing devil's advocate again.
yeah, for some people, maybe that's a good thing. Me personally, I it's like no more lies. I think they're damaging, white or not. Again, if you want to truly, there's something to say of being having a clear conscience. I've known what shame feels like. I've known what guilt feels like. It destroys, anger that's not anger, shame, resentment, whatever that's not transformed is transferred. Um, that is counselorish. And it resonates through, your family, and through your relationship. It's that little scar that's going to stay there. So me personally, no, I mean, I've done the little white lie, when I've told my wife, oh, I'm not going to have a drink. And then I go out and I have a drink. And even though that a drink is harmless, in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I told her I wasn't going to have a drink. Do I go home and tell her I had a drink, or just say, no, I didn't have anything? And I go home and I say I didn't have anything. My breath obviously smells like a freaking IPA. And even though again, it was harmless, and, absolutely nothing happened in her mind, you lied to me. What else are you going to lie to me about? And it just compounds. And I've seen that happen because I've done it, and I don't like it. I don't,
So that's really the biggest thing for me. I think you kind of led me right into my point. I agree with you in the sense of there is no such thing as necessarily a white lie, right? A lie is a lie. I do feel that what people consider white lies end up being gateways, right? If I can get away
yes,
with this little thing, then
yes,
next time I'm gonna get away with something else, and it's not
and
really
yeah,
harming anybody and whatever. So I'm gonna
it
just go.
eventually will.
Exactly. And I think
Because
that's where it leads. It just creates a pattern that is unhealthy.
I hate having have created a I don't know what the word I'm looking for here, but I set a standard, unfortunately, because of white lies and stuff like that. Um, and having a beautiful wife. My wife is amazing. She's an amazing wife, although she will criticize herself to the day she dies. She's an amazing mother. Her motherhood, her choice to be a stay at home mom allowed me to have a very, very broad and successful law enforcement career because I never had to worry about child care or anything like that. She sacrificed her career. She was always there. Um, and although it sounds stupid, packs my lunch, cleans my clothes. Like I can't ask for a better person. Obviously there's, we're going to have conflict. We're going to have friction, and she's a beautiful woman, physically and spiritually. But because of those, compounding lies, it's like there's gonna be conflict. And it sucks for me because I'm like, here's this woman, she's my wife, she's my gift. I want to devour her, I want to chew her up and eat her out. But obviously it's not gonna be that smooth when you're trying to heal things and fix things, But that's where work comes in, like I like you said earlier today, you have to remind yourself of certain things. And that's one thing that I'm 100% certain. Haven't been in prior relationships. I was married before, but I was engaged before. Um, I go back to that one moment of, okay, why did I want to marry her to begin with? And then I go back and remember because you forget. You forget. I was flipping through old photos and I happened to pop up on a photo of when we were first dating. God, I look so much younger and more handsome. And my daughter saw it. She was like, wow, you
Oh
guys
no,
look.
you were a scrawny little kid, so I don't know. I like you better
Well,
now.
that's even further back. I mean, I think I told you 115 pounds out of Marine Corps boot camp. I mean, pencil thin, late bloomer. It was pretty pathetic. But going back on that, like those white lies compound and they will eventually hurt. Like I said, a lie is a lie. If you really want to thrive in a relationship, and again, I'm learning. I'm not perfect, and sometimes I need to practice what I preach. I tend to recluse because I don't like conflict anymore. People like us, we've lived a life of conflict, albeit physical conflict, but that articulates into emotional conflict because we live with the demons that build in our heads from the stuff that we've done. So when it comes to conflict, I tend to avoid it, and that's not good because I'm a horrible communicator, and you know that. You
And I can certainly relate to that. It's funny in power relationships, talk about learning and growing. And one thing that I love Tyler for, you talk about shutting down. I'm very much like you. And yeah, I hate when you do that to me because you're my brother and I don't like seeing you suffer. I don't know exactly what you're going through because I'm the same way, right? When something happens to me or I'm not happy with something, I don't necessarily voice it and I kind of shut down and I just get quiet. One thing I love about Tyler, she actually, as painful as the process may be, she forces it out of me. She'll come and she'll sit next to me, she'll talk to me and she'll keep, and it's actually interesting. So one thing I learned is I also learned to communicate my needs. So recently I told her, listen, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I just need my space for a little bit. We'll talk about this later. And then we sat down and talked about it later. But understanding those, I understand my needs, but I also understand that you need to communicate and I need to open up to you. Um, that's new to me. And that's a thing is huge. I mean, we can communicate, we can talk about things, but I can also get my space and the opportunity to kind of
right.
arrange my thoughts and see what is
And
bothering me.
and not to beat a dead horse, which that I don't know where that term came from, but I'm gonna find out. Um, you
I'm on
you said
it.
you said something that I want to touch on before we close it down, whatever, because we could stay here for hours talking. I know we can for sure. Um, but what did you say? I just lost my train of thought. This banana whiskey is phenomenal. Um, oh, what was the last thing you said? You said communicating.
Being quiet, being forced to talk, but also taking time for myself.
Thank you. There it is. You
You're
re-triggered it
welcome.
in my mind. Um, it's okay to do things apart as well, to an
Yeah.
extent, like depending on
And
what
it's
it.
important. It's not okay. It's important. You need to do stuff apart.
Yeah. So because I can acknowledge, I can tell you right now, there will never be a day in my life. Well, no, that's extreme. But for the most part, my wife and I will never agree on a movie. I like watching typical mindless guy action movies. She likes watching, like The Notebook and Downington Abbey and stuff like that. Um, and we have agreed on some movies. It's rare, but it happens, and some shows. But it's okay to, you know, have
I
different
think
interests and do
I
different
think
things.
Deadpool checks all those boxes.
Deadpool.
Yeah, I think it's a chick
Oh
flick
yeah, oh yeah.
action
As far as
movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and
Yeah,
the
I think
Expendables.
yep. No, but I agree. I think hobbies are important. Having time for yourself is important. Just for me, doing some of the shooting competitions or going to the range every so often by myself, I think that's just my time,
Right.
and I love the fact that Tyler tags along to a lot of our business trips. She comes, she assists, she
Yeah.
helps. If it's
Which
nothing else than administrative,
and which
but
is new for me too. Like it's pretty cool. Our cadre has grown. Not just with Paul, but with Tyler, who helps administrate, like you said, administratively, logistically, and stuff, and
yeah,
golf for the most part. She keeps me on my toes, picking up her toys.
yep, she'll
Um,
be with us in Ohio. But yeah, I think with all of that, or maybe specific because of that, I find that I need, okay, every so often I need just my own time. I just need to go and do things myself. So I don't feel like I need to necessarily accommodate or please everybody all the time. And I just have my own time. And I think
right.
that's super important. My dad actually told me a long time ago, my dad is deceased, unfortunately, but one person I wish was here for the wedding next week. But he said once, he's like, BK. Well, he didn't say BK. He actually said Sviel, but he said
Zviel, Zviel,
Sviel. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Just keep practicing
Zviel,
that. No,
Zviel,
now you effed it up. Yeah, don't worry
Zviel,
about it.
Zviel,
No,
Zviel,
no,
Zviel,
no, no.
Zviel, Zviel.
Any, anyways, he said, "Listen, Sviel, you need to find a
Zviel.
hobby and go do it. On your own once a week." My dad used to play bridge. I don't understand the concept of bridge. I think it's a card game, whatever. But every Sunday evening he would not be home. He would go and he would play, cards in a club, and that was his time. And as I grow older, I find how important that actually is. So certainly another lesson learned that we could share with other uh, men in relationships. If you don't have something that is just yours, you need to find something that should just be yours, and
Right.
you know make that a habit, make that a non-negotiable. That's important.
Right. And again, it can still be something you share, but that's your thing. That's your cosa nostra.
Right.
Your thing. And I definitely agree with that. I'm still trying to figure out what my thing is. Although it used to be martial arts, and it kind of still is, obviously because of my injuries. I can't do it like I used to.
Oh, but you have your woodwork and you have,
Right. Well, that's more therapeutic.
but it's your
Yes, I do.
time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it,
And
it
listen,
is. There is a reverence to woodworking. It's very symbolic for me. But I do. I put on my headphones. I put on my music. I blast my Rolling Stones. The Doors, Nirvana, and I just get into my wood and create stuff. That is my time, and it's important.
yep.
So you gotta have that.
So what are you gonna wear for
I can't
officiating the
I,
wedding?
I can't give that up.
All right.
Can
So
I? I mean, I'll give it up. I don't care.
no, no, no. I like surprises. I didn't know if it was common knowledge
Well,
or
I'll
not.
just say this. It was a custom made suit.
I can't wait.
It was a
Uh,
custom made suit.
I am
Um,
gonna be more um, conservative on the ceremony, but this
I
is
would
no
hope
secret.
so.
Well, I don't know. Initially, I was planning on showing up in speedos, but
It is her first wedding.
right, right. So
She is,
I'm
I'm
gonna.
sure, gonna have a dress.
She's gonna have a dress. She's gonna look beautiful. She always does. I know the bridesmaids were given a color scheme. Um, I don't know necessarily groomsmen or whatever it's called. I
What
figured
colors,
all.
by the way?
Thanks for putting me in the spot. Burgundy or maroon burgundy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
the
gonna
colors.
match. I'm not gonna match any of
Yeah.
them, but that's
Listen,
okay.
I'm wearing khaki pants and a button down shirt and flip flops. So I'm still gonna
That's cool.
be yeah,
You
I'm gonna
willing?
be
You willing?
relaxed.
I mean, I'm essentially the priest, so I gotta wear a suit.
You've
but
always been my priest.
it's not just any suit. It wasn't cheap, but it was worth it, and I'll probably never wear it again. But
That's
it,
funny.
it I look good in it.
I'm sure
I
you
will
do. I
say
can't
that
wait.
much.
Um, yeah, and for the party itself, I mean, this is no secret, but people know that we made um, silkies,
Yes.
frangipanis with our what I would call a wedding logo, which for those that don't know, it actually has a Tavor rifle instead of an arrow going through a heart made of casings or shells.
So
Um,
you know what? That could be the base of your what's it called? Your crest, your family crest.
oh, I like
You
that.
can
I never
start
had a
it off
family
with that.
crest. I like it. I like it.
Well, speaking of which, and I'm putting you on the spot because we're talking about marriage and relationships and stuff like that. Your sister will eventually get us matching tattoos. We're going straight like gay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And you know what? She'll be. We can tell her now that she's a tattoo artist and so forth. She's always been an artist. She got into tattooing a few years ago, and the work that I've seen her do is phenomenal. Very
Yes,
delicate.
I follow her on
Um,
Instagram and whatnot.
yeah, I'm excited for her to come. It's funny you talk about your sisters. My sister and I, growing up, our relationship was very what's the word? Very sibling traditional in the sense that we fought all the time,
Same
and
here.
it hasn't till I don't know the past decade or so that we got so much closer. And
Yeah,
I'm super
it was the same with me, and I think it's that whole life maturing thing.
yeah
And it was very a lot of conflict with my sisters and I, especially my middle sister. And I'm realizing more it was more because we're so alike. Um, and my older sister was kind of like the mediator. Um, but yeah, even till now, I think I always joke with my oldest sister. It took her, I don't know, she was probably within the last decade, the first time I ever heard her say, I love you. Never heard her say it. It was like no emotion. But it's the same thing, as you grow older and you mature, you get life experience.
right.
You realize, and I tell you what, being men, I'm grateful that I had sisters because even though there was that conflict, whatever I did know about women came from them. I was essentially raised by women. That's why I always say I was raised by wolves.
I don't know that I learned anything from my sister about women. I it was a lot of trial and error, mostly error. But uh
Oh yeah, same here. It's funny or not because I think we've talked about this too. I was totally shy. I was a skinny kid that got picked on. I
I
was
was a
never,
fat kid that got picked on.
yeah. So say yeah, we were just polar opposites, and I was, I never got the girl that I liked. The bully always got the dude who bullied me would always get the girl I had a crush on. It was like this soliloquy of sorrow, as I like to say. And then then I finally hit puberty at the age of 40, and here I am.
Yep,
So-
being a stud. Uh
yeah, right.
Anyway, so I'm super excited my sister's coming. I'm looking forward to it. She'll get our tattoos, matching tattoos. Also told her that Tyler and I will get a matching tattoo. I never would have done it with any prior relationship, but I would like to get one with Tyler. So that shows a certain level of
Oh,
commitment that wasn't there
absolutely.
before.
I mean, and um, I have, I honor my wife and our family. I'm in my tattoos as well. I don't see tattoos as just ink on skin. It's expression, and we see it, like
It
us. We
tells a
see
story.
Yeah, it does, and it dates back for years. And maybe we can do a podcast on tattooing. And I always say, next podcast we could do it while I'm getting tattooed or you're getting tattooed with, obviously Turtle,
Eternal. Yep.
yeah, who's become our guy.
You know
Um,
what? It's funny. I just found, and I know we're deviating from the topic, but I just saw today somebody post something on Facebook. They were getting a tattoo, and they said the oldest tattoo parlor in the world in history. And I look at it's in the old city of Jerusalem. It's in Israel.
oh, that's cool.
So it's all like cryptic tattoos and stuff like that, but it's pretty awesome. So maybe we'll have to check that out as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. That's the next bucket list: getting a tattoo in Israel next time we go back.
Sounds good.
I am down. But BK, I know you've had a long day, shooting, training, preparing other warriors and savages. This Sunday, I know I'm pretty excited about it. Marrying you and Tyler and gaining a sister through Tyler. I love your family as my own. So I'm pretty honored to marry you guys.
I'm super psyched that you're doing it, man. You don't know how much that
I,
means to me.
I'm nervous. I'm like, I was telling my wife the other day, I'm like, I've never been so stressed out about a wedding in my life. Besides the fact that it's you, I've had to learn Hebrew. I've had to learn Maori. I've had to learn warrior dances. I'm like, damn, I've done more ethnic like education for this wedding
Yo.
than anything I've ever done.
That's awesome. I'm
So,
looking forward. So yeah, a week from today, I will be married for the 4th time, and you will be drunk with me, and I can't wait.
amen.
Amen,
Amen.
brother.
Well, on that note, I got 2 minutes remaining on my battery, so boom, perfect timing.
Goodbye. Have a good night, brother. Love you.
Yeah, have a good night, brother. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.